one, and we'll have another win in next round. So looking at the matchup, Carrie was obviously running the Miradon, Ensign, Ogerpon Cornerstone, Whimsicott, Farigiraf, and Ursaluna Blood Moon. And for Landon,
Landon's got Urshifu Rapid Strike, Pelipper, Raging Bolt, Incineroar, Rillaboom, and Calyrex Ice.
okay, so we have another Calyrex Ice Rider. So 3 and 5 or 3 and 4 rounds. Obviously, it's a very popular choice.
It's the most common Pokemon we saw in the usage graphic too.
Yep. So looking at Landon's team, pretty stock. Assault Vest, Raging Bolt, Safety Goggles, Ensign. The Ensign has Taunt over Will-O-Wisp, so that's an interesting thing. Rillaboom, obviously one of the better Miradon answers, just to and not even really an answer, just to slow it down enough to let the rest of your team try to handle it.
Oh yeah, to be fair, you get rid of 2 of Miradon's modifiers just from replacing those terrain.
Just being able to take 2 Life Orbs off of it is big game. Especially with Assault Vest. This one actually is not Assault Vest, so
it's Metal Plate.
So it is going to be a little bit more susceptible to those electric type moves. Also looking at Landon's Pelipper. Earlier we had a Pelipper mirror where both Pelippers had opted to drop Protect in addition to pick up Tailwind. Landon's does have Protect, so it's just going to be Wide Guard, Weather Ball, Protect, and Hurricane. So we see the team up on the screen. We have Terra Grass Ensign with Safety Goggles, really just over prepping for a Moongus. You can never really respect it too much. So, obviously no problems there. Terra Water Calyrex. Earlier we had a Terra Grass Calyrex, Terra Water.
So we also had a Terra Fire last round too.
Yeah, we did have a Terra Fire, so, we're covering the first partner Pokemon gamut, all of those. But the big thing about the Terra Water Calyrex is that it doesn't actually have a resistance to Miradon. So those electric type moves are going to be dealing a lot of damage. So a lot of the onus is going to be on Carrie to basically force the issue. Because we look at his team and we've already seen it earlier. Assault Vest Ensign, very, very strong. Miradon, Whimsicott, Ogerpon Cornerstone, pretty stock. The Farigiraf with Foul Play, very, very strong. Obviously, Helping Hand also just being able to massively over KO stuff. And then the Ursaluna, so far we've had a couple of Ursalunas featured. They didn't really show up all that much though. So
yeah, they were on the team sheet, but they were just they come in this specific matchup or something like that.
Yeah, Ursaluna currently seems like it fills a lot more roles, similar to some mons like Golden Go in the format, where they're not really going to come to a lot of matchups, but the matchups they come to are going to be very, very good. Whether this is one of the matchups, I'm not inclined to say so. I don't think this is a particularly good matchup for the Blood Moon.
Or the Mons Kaboom it.
Yeah, basically, it's not great against the Pelipper. It's not great against the Urshifu. It's okay against the Raging Bolt. Medium against the Ensign. Not great against the Rillaboom, especially with Metal Plate.
I can see Terra Normal Blood Moon doing some decent damage if you can.
Yeah, it deals a lot of damage, but you have to get around the Pelipper. And then,
but I mean, if you want to just have a Terra of your same type doing a lot of damage, there's a mirror add-on right there.
Basically, it seems like you kind of really only deploy Blood Moon when Miradon's not going to get the job done.
I would assume probably as an option into a Miradon mirror.
Yeah, possibly. But we do see Landon lock in pretty fast.
A mirror add-on, if you will.
Very nice. But yeah, we do.
We're here all day.
For better or for worse. But we do see Landon lock in pretty fast, so he has a pretty good game plan for what he wants to do. We see Carrie lock in a little bit later, so we're going to see, this is something where Landon kind of needs to have strong positioning, because Carrie's team just kind of comes out the gate with so much damage so fast. The Miradon, you can basically just kind of count up the resistances to electric moves, then sometimes you're just going to be able to plow through those resistances anyway. So it's going to be very interesting to see how both players adapt. So we're going to get leads here in a second, and let's see what we got.
Bridge and Miradon.
So it's going to be Farigiraf, Miradon, very, very strong. Then we see Rillaboom and Calyrex Ice Rider. So that's a pretty solid lead. Landon should be pretty happy with this because he gets to turn the terrain off because of Rillaboom being slower without having to switch the Rillaboom in. So essentially it's going to be, did both players calculate how much damage can the Miradon do without electric terrain? Because that's really what the difference is going to be.
Honestly, it's just Flutter Mane damage.
Yeah.
If you know your Flutter Mane calcs, that's going to be kind of similar, just a different type matchup to worry about here. Because You got rid of Hadron Engine. You got rid of the
Yeah, no
well,
no Hadron Engine and no Electric Terrain, which is what doubles up on the Hadron Engine.
So because of that, it's just like if you know your specs, Fluttermane Calix, this is going to be similar enough.
Yep. So it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously,
Calyrex in a good position, I'd say.
Calyrex Ice Rider obviously has some pretty insane bulk. We did see it kind of fail it last round, but here we go. So we're going to see a Terastallization go on to the Miraidon. Miraidon's going to Terra Electric, shed that ice weakness.
It goes back to what we were saying before, though, of like, I mean, it's, oh no, you lost your terrain. Oh, never mind.
We see a Draco Meteor come down, and the Rillaboom just gets blown up.
Still picks up.
Yeah, with the Rillaboom not being Assault Vest, that's the big difference. Was that basically, you lose the Electric Terrain and everything, or you lose the Electric Terrain, you lose the Electric Terrain boost, but.
My apologies, I am not familiar with your game.
Yeah, pretty much anytime you think Miraidon doesn't have it, it's still got it. Yeah, the mana is just absolutely insane. We do see a Glacial Lance come down, just getting some chip damage down. Trying to set things up, see if it looks like the Urshifu is going to be coming in. So it does, obviously not a great turn for Landon, but not the worst either. I
mean, the Miraidon's -1. Yeah, it's going to probably switch out anyway just because it wants to get the terrain initiative now.
Yeah, but it's also just straight up pressured off the field by the Urshifu. So, that's a pretty big game. The Farigiraf also doesn't really do a whole, it has foul play pressure. Other than that, it doesn't really seem to do a whole lot here. So, it is possible that Carry could stay in, and if he stays in, a -2 Draco Meteor is still a lot of damage, especially to a 52% health Calyrex Ice Rider. So, but we are going to see a withdrawal. So it's going to be
into the Ogerpon.
Yep, that's going to be the Ogerpon coming in. So that makes sense. It's just able, if you're probably just planning on sacrificing something this turn, then that makes sense. Allows you to reset and just kind of, readjust. So we're going to see a Terastallization come out from the Calyrex Ice Rider, and that's going to change it to the Water type. And we'll see how this turn proceeds out. So we're going to see a close combat into the Ogerpon. So, reasonable coverage. Close combat and Surging Strike space, very close to the same amount of damage, unless you're hitting a Hippowdon, I suppose. So we're going to see a Foul Play come out from the Farigiraf, and then we're going to see another Glacial Lance. So this is just going to be a double KO. Not quite a double KO. Okay, the Electric Seed on the Farigiraf. Oh, that was a critical hit. Okay, so the Farigiraf very much adapted to having a good amount of bulk here. So we're going to see a Chilling May boost come out. Grassy Terrain is going to churn for a couple of Pokemon. And, yeah. So, honestly, not a bad position for Landon here. So that's going to be the Ensign coming in. So now we get into, a very, we're basically already almost to the end game here. So it's going to be a really tricky position because, there's... Landon has one more Pokemon in the back, so we're going to see the Urshifu switch out. Makes sense, just trying to be safe. Carry's in kind of a tough position here because the Miraidon is kind of just pressured off the board. Or, yeah, the Miraidon is kind of just pressured off the board by the Urshifu from here on out. Unless you can somehow get some sort of Trick Room position set up. In which case, okay, so knockoff would have been smart because it would have knocked off the Scarf. So we're going to see a Foul Play go in. So ultimately, not a terrible turn, but still leading that Scarf Urshifu in the back just means that Landon has his ace in the hole for the Miraidon as long as he can avoid getting too badly out of position. So we'll just have to see, what happens from here on out. We're going to see Helping Hand come out from the Farigiraf.
Oh, I think this instance is going to try to... I think they're trying to get the Calyrex, now.
Yeah, they might just try to knock out the Calyrex. However,
I think they knew that the Farigiraf was going down that turn anyway, so that just means that, the instinct, the Farigiraf's doing something before going down.
Might as well try to get something for your trouble. So we're going to see a knockoff come out, and that is not going to pick up. So that's going to probably be a high horsepower coming in. +1 high horsepower into the Ensign is just a one-hit knockout. That is a lot of damage.
I was going to say, if you had a high horsepower miss or something like that happen there, then you could actually start pivoting the Ensign.
Yeah, I mean, the big problem was that, Carry just kind of ran out of Pokemon. It's like the Miraidon's here now, and that's great. But Landon just kind of had really good threat assessment. He was comfortable losing his Rillaboom at the start of the game, basically just to force down some damage and get the Miraidon out of position at -2. So there's really just not, there's not
Yeah,
going to
I
be
was
enough.
gonna say,
There's not going to be enough damage, and even if you can't even go for discharge hacks because you can't paralyze the Raging Bolt. So the Raging Bolt is just going to be able to fire back, guaranteed, unless you just knock it out, in which case the Calyrex gets to attack. So
it's crazy because like in round 2 we saw Carrie's Miraidon put on a clinic the entire time.
Yeah, and that was a really good job by Landon, just keeping Mischief managed. Miraidon does do a lot of damage, but Landon locked in very early in team preview. He had a game plan for specifically what he wanted to do, and it worked out very, very well. So that's one game up for Landon, and
he locks fast again.
Landon,
if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
exactly. Landon has got his game plan set up, so it's going to be on Carrie to be able to try to adapt.
I think the first adaptation that you do is you do not bring the Miraidon in front, or if you do, you pivot it out immediately.
Yeah.
I think it's something like that because you need to have the electric drain advantage to start pushing your damage.
Yeah, it's just a little difficult sometimes to be able to try, because it doesn't seem like Carrie has a lot of great switches into Glacial Lance, other than the Ensign, assuming you lead the Farigiraf already. So we'll just have to see how he adapts. Obviously, Carrie has a lot of experience with this team, so we're gonna see same lead from Carrie, and we're gonna see same lead from Landon. Okay, so basically what it boils down to is Carrie thinks that the game plan is acceptable. You just have to figure out the execution.
I can see that angle. That's why I mentioned before that I think a potential option that Carrie could consider here is. You know that you're losing the terrain here because the Rillaboom's always going to be slower. I think you at least get the chip damage with Volt Switch, and it comes down here. I think a potential big play that you could do is if you think the Calyrex is going to try to Trick Room here to push its own speed advantage, then you could, with the Fire Draft, click Trick Room yourself to reverse it.
That is an option. That being said, Landon did show in Game 1 that he's willing to just not click Trick Room, so that can also be a big thing. So we're going to see a Helping Hand come out from the Farigiraf, so this is threatening big damage. That's going to be a Protect into the Calyrex, and based off of Carrie's face, I think we knew where the Draco Meteor was aiming. So I like the cheeky, aggressive play, but Landon, his aggressive play in Game 1 pays off by being able to play very defensively in Game 2, and stall out every turn Miraidon's not dealing damage is probably a pretty good turn.
Oh yeah, because if it's not clicking, it's easier to not get hit by a bus if the bus isn't moving.
Yeah, exactly. So now with the Urshifu coming in, it's a pretty interesting pin for the Miraidon as well, because now the Miraidon can either Terra and remove its ice weakness, but then it still has to potentially take a Surging Strikes or a close combat, or it cannot Terra.
And then just get kaboomed by
But the big thing is that since Landon already saw what the Miraidon locked into, and it's not Volt Switch, so the Miraidon can either pivot out and spend another turn not dealing damage, or they can just go for it. And it looks like it's just going to be so it's going to start off with a Terrestrialization on the Urshifu. The Urshifu is going to shed its Fighting type and gain an extra bonus water damage. And we're going to see a Terrestrialization, which is going to be a Terrestrialization into Electric for the Miraidon. So an Electric Terrestrialization on the Miraidon is very interesting because I still don't think it actually lives a double up. If you look at Surging Strikes or Close Combat plus Glacial Lance, I don't think it actually lives that. So it's going to be interesting to see what the trade-off is. But it's just going for the Farigiraf. Interesting. So actually, this ends up looking pretty good for Carrie potentially, as long as he just doesn't. As long as the Miraidon survives the turn. We're going to see a Draco Meteor come in. That's going to knock out the Urshifu. No surprise there entirely. But it's a big knockout. That is...
The big problem here, though, is that is a Glacial Lance KO range for the Fire Giraffe.
Yep, so the Fire Giraffe is going to be able to throw out a Foul Play. Very good damage there. 50+%. Glacial Lance is going to come down. Going to be a little bit of damage to the Miraidon. Basically, it's going to be very suspect whether you think it 2 hits or not. That's going to be something you just kind of have to know your calcs ahead of time, and how these trainers train their Pokemon is going to inform them on is this actually going to work or not. That being said, Landon did just take out Carry's priority blocker, and now he's bringing in he has two Pokemon on the bench with potent priority moves.
Oh yeah. Not only that, if you bring the Electric Terrain back up, then all of a sudden everything else is susceptible to Electric Terrain boosted Thunderclaps.
Yep.
So even if resisted, that's still a priority move. That's still gonna at least chunk a little bit.
Yep. So that being said, the Rillaboom coming in, does offer fake out pressure. So that's pretty important. So we're gonna see Carry switch out the Miradon. Obviously there's a lot of different counterplay with like fake out. Yep. So there comes the Incin. Incin's gonna slow down the Rillaboom a bunch. And it's also just going to be something that can take a Glacial Lance reasonably well. Even a +1 Incin wouldn't be under too much threat. And we're just going to see a Protect from the Ogerpon. And what's it going to be from? We're going to see. Okay, basically it was just a Scouting Protect. It's pretty safe. There really wasn't too much bad that could happen there. If you just switch in Incin and Protect, as long as you don't if you get high horsepower, that was basically the worst thing you could look for. That didn't happen, so that's a pretty acceptable trade for Carry to get back into the game.
And with what he's going for now, he's trying to make sure that the Clear Amulet gets preserved.
Yeah, because that's a big thing, just not being able to have the Incin pivot out. So we're gonna see a switch out.
Since this Incin, I believe, does not have Will-O-Wisp.
Yep, I don't believe.
Yeah, this one has Flare Blitz over Will-O-Wisp on the typical set.
So we're gonna see an Ivy Cudgel come out, deal exactly 50% of the Raging Bolt. That's pretty important, especially still with Grassy Terrain churning. We're going to see a U-turn out, knock off the Sturdy from the Ogerpon Cornerstone. So now it's going to be, what is the Incin doing? The Incin's going for knockoff into the Raging Bolt. Okay, so knocks off Assault Vest. So we're going to get another turn of Grassy Terrain recovery for a couple of Pokemon. But honestly, Carry can't really be too upset with that turn. It really just depends on... obviously, Landon still has a lot of outplay potential, but I think that Carry got a lot of good... he gained a lot of real estate there, just being able to, generate a bunch of tempo while not really giving up anything himself. So we're going to see another couple of Protects come out. Raging Bolt is going to go for Volt Switch into the Incin, just chunk a little, do a little bit of damage, do a little bit of switching. So it really just depends on what the Incin's going to be going for here. Could be a parting shot, could be a knockoff.
It's actually Assault Vest Incin, so I figured it was going to be playable into Cali.
It would probably not be parting shot then.
Yeah, I noticed that whenever I said Will-O-Wisp wasn't on the Incin set before, I looked over at the graphic and I'm like, oh, that's an Assault Vest.
Reading the sheet explains the sheet. So
true. That's actually one skill that you think it sounds stupid to say it. It's one skill that actually you pick up as a player is you get more and more aware of your opponent's team sheet.
Open team sheets are there for a reason. So that being said, Grassy Terrain has expired. A little bit of unfortunate timing, but not the end of the world. We're gonna get a fake out, and then
I like the idea if the Incineroar tries to.
So now it's just gonna be. Is this gonna knock out? Oh, it does not knock out. That is major clutch. Okay, we're gonna see a Trick Room come out. Okay, so that's big.
Benji.
Yeah.
The horse is here.
The horse is here. The horse might be Lorse. Let's see what we got. That being said, could just be a turn of defensive play. Just because the Calyrex gets to go first doesn't mean it's guaranteed to be able to knock anything out.
Oh yeah, if you're in Landon's position, or I would say just getting some extra damage in on the Incin, where it itself is neither of Astral Brat or Young Horse.
Yeah.
There's a lot of horses in this game right now.
Many horses. Oh, but we do get the Woodhammer knockout. Thanks to the Metal Plate, extra boosted damage, and the fact that Ogerpon Cornerstone really does not run that much bulk. So that is going to, with the Furrygraph down and the Cornerstone down, that is going to draw out the Miradon in Trick Room. So
it's now susceptible to the priority. It can now just be Glacial Lance.
Yep. Not a lot of priority on the field at the moment, but it is susceptible to Glacial Lance, and that's the big issue. Not scoring that knockout with Flare Blitz and not being able to reposition it all with the Incin or anything on Carry's side is kind of costing him here. So Glacial Lance is going to come out. Based off the damage we saw, it may or may not knock out. It does pick up the knockout. Calyrex Ice Rider, proving why it's still one of the best restricteds in the format right now, getting a reasonable, either a high or reasonable damage roll to knock out the Miradon in Trick Room here. Flare Blitz from the Incin is going to come out and knock out the Rillaboom. but it appears the damage might be done at this point.
Yeah, you still have Raging Bolt in the back, which is
Yep, there's still,
Electric Train boosted Thunderclaps,
Yep.
which means even if you're Assault Vest and Incineroar here, you're getting chunked.
Yep, you're going to take even single target Glacial Lance at this point is probably going to wrap things up here. We're going to see, you know, Landon's going to be clicking a couple of buttons, and that should basically just be the end of the game. We see a cheeky fake out.
That's to avoid.
Yeah,
I like the idea.
It avoids Thunderclap, and if you dodge high horsepower here, then, you know, that's another turn down. But we are going to see a Glacial Lance, and Landon is going to wrap this one up. So that is going to be 4-0. You know, Landon Morjal is going to move to 4-0. That means he has guaranteed his spot in the top cut.
And Carry moves down to 3-1,
Yep.
which there's still another round left after this. Carry still very much has a chance to make it into top cut as well.
Carey is going to be in a win-and-in spot. Potentially could also lose depending on, you know, given he was already 3-0, his only loss is to a 4-0 at this point.
I think we've answered the age-old question, though. Which is better? Riding your bike to work or going in a horse-drawn carriage?
Yeah. Today, it is a horse-drawn carriage. So, yeah, good job, Landon. And again, for Carey, you know, he'll have his chance next round. Looks like that was actually the first match to conclude.
That round is actually a great example of showing just the sheer snowball potential, no pun intended,
Yes.
it being an ice type
Yeah.
that Calyrex, like, either Calyrex has.
Yeah.
You're seeing it more and more with how Ice Rider works, where you don't want to have something in range of Ice Rider. You even saw the Rillaboom pick up a KO this game. You probably were, if you're in Carry's position and you saw something get claimed by the Rillaboom, you're probably thinking, okay, this Cali does not have a boost now. I can at least manage a little bit better.
You know, one thing, looking at these team sheets and looking at basically every other match we've had so far, one of the big things about Calyrex is look at the team sheets and look at what all the items are. Do you see any berries there? Citrus Berry is one of the best items in the game.
And one of the two abilities that it has is just, hey, yeah, nothing can eat.
Yeah, you don't get citrus berries. Citrus Instant is one of the best possible items you can run on it. But just in this format, with two of the best Pokemon being Pokemon that get Unnerved stapled to their, you know, damage boosting ability on Knockout, you know, Unnerve is usually an ability that historically has not seen a whole lot of play by itself.
It's more that, like, I've noticed the strength of Unnerve on Calyrex is that it supplements the kit, not actually it's not actually like the sub.
Exactly.
If we're gonna look at psychic types that have Unnerve that are restricted, let's look at Mewtwo in comparison.
Yeah, exactly.
Calyrex does everything that Mewtwo does, but better.
Yeah.
And has Grimnay to work with on top of that, so it can just snowball easier. It's just
exactly. So, like, in terms of Unnerve, just being able to staple it on as a second ability, it's really just perfect for those mons. Because it means that there's just not nearly as much healing against those mons.
Not only that, no Kasib Berry, no Yachi Berry.
Yeah, not even being able to play defensive. The type reducing berries have had medium play. Like, they were obviously a lot more.
They were a lot more prominent in a format where you couldn't change your type.
Yeah, and in Sword and Shield, they were obviously very, very prevalent to try to live max moves. Here, not so much, but like citrus berry and the pinch berries are the big ones that I was thinking of. That, like, you just don't really see those anymore because you can't really afford to have dead items, you know, that you just can't use. And, like, you know, most of the time, citrus berry is still going to be really good, but
just if you're playing into a matchup, it's what we were talking about when we saw the usage graphic. If the number one, and if you want to argue,
it was number 1 and number 3, I believe, were their usage rates. So
it's like you can reasonably expect that you're going to run into one or both during your times. Like, be it at a local, at a major, you're going to run into at least one of them.
Yep.
And that means that in those specific scenarios, like you said, it's going to be a dead item, and at that point, that's why if you notice, that's why Assault Vest, I believe, has been picking up on Incineroar more, just because, like,
it's kind of just Assault Vest and Safety Goggles are the two that you really start to see now. Which, like, obviously those are both still reasonable items, but it does affect your team building a lot in that, you know, you can't really out-sustain these two mons very effectively.
You have to rely on a Mungus to do it.
Yeah,
even
it's basically a Mungus, grassy terrain, or just plain out-positioning them and forcing them to not attack.
If you're Dawn, Pollen Puff.
Pollen Puff.
Pollen Puff on your Calyrex.
Pollen Puff's a very interesting move. But from Landon's perspective, he adapted very, very well. He started off, he knew his game plan. He knew exactly what he wanted to do in game one and did it. And then he adjusted very, very well to what he figured Carey was going to adjust to. Because that's part of one of the cool things about best of three is like you get a chance to like throw different looks at people. But
Oh, yeah.
even with the exact same leads and both players sending out the exact same Pokemon against each other, they play those two games played out so differently, but yet Landon was just able to navigate that so well by using.
I think adjusting to the adjustments was what the thing that put Landon in such a good
Yeah.
position. You saw that in game one, the Calyrex just snowballed like crazy. They just got like one straight Glacial Lance,
Yep.
picked up a KO, and it's just like, hey, yeah, we're running away with the game now.
And then
Which put such a big target on the Calyrex's back, which was just like, hey, I need to get rid of this suit like as soon as possible.
Yep.
Which gives Landon just the simple option of protect, and then like I can use Rillaboom to either
you just
I can use it to either generate momentum or I can use it to just burst damage something really quick.
just you turned out to the Urshifu, and then all of a sudden Landon was just in an extremely dominating position. Basically just from using the information from the prior game. Really, really, really well done. Like I said, Carey's going to be okay. He's got one more round to try to make it into Top Cut, which we are going to be playing. We'll have one more round after this. Probably going to be 4-1 and a couple of 3-2s, making our top 8. So Carey's going to be in pretty good position to try to make it in with either a win or potentially a good loss.
We might also see, because I was told we had three. What was it? 3-3-0s.
We had three 0-loss players entering this round. We're down to 2. Maybe
and then
one after
we're gonna
this
be
round.
down to 1 after this. 'Cause I'm pretty sure they were both.
They
were both 3-0.
Yeah, one way or the other, we'll end up with one XO or one 5-0 player going into cut.
We might actually end up, because I think one of the 3-0s paired down.
Yeah,
I
they
think
would
what
have
ends up
to.
happening is our next win in, I think, is gonna be potentially the 4-0s. So it's actually gonna be curious to see if you might end up seeing a repeat appearance from Landon, and it actually is gonna be a really cool thing to see.
Yeah.
Do you think that he'd be able to pull off the 5-0 into Top Cut?
Anything's possible. I mean, this team, he's got a very consistent